Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and do you want audio worthy of your BMW? Bimmertech and I can help. Alright y'all, so if you're fans of the channel or if you've seen some of my videos before, forgive the voice guys, I'm fighting a bit of a cold, but I was so excited to get this content to you, I'm gonna film anyway. So, you know how much I love the brand. BMW is just fantastic, but there's one area that I feel almost every BMW needs improvement, and that's in the sound system itself. Now, almost all BMWs have two different sets of speakers. They either have the HiFi or Harmon Kardon. Now, there is a couple of others beyond that, depending on what you get, but the vast majority are HiFi or Harmon Kardon. And to be honest with you guys, I can't stand them. The HiFi really are an entry-level speaker. They are missing tweeters. They frequently are missing different speakers through the car. They really are just the bare minimum to get by, and they're not great. But even if you have the HK or Harmon Kardon speakers, they're really only okay. I really feel that the HKs should be the entry level, and then there should be better beyond it, which is why I love the Bimmertech speakers. Now, we're going to be installing into my BMW G87 M2 today, and from the moment I started to get this order set up, I knew I was going to replace the speakers. Now, this particular car only comes with HKs, but I don't care, they're coming out. You know, the mids and the tweeters are only okay. The subwoofers under the seats are really not that great. And this is a fantastic way to upgrade your car across the board. No matter whether it's a daily commuter or just something for the weekends, I really can hear the difference, especially on how well set up I've had in previous cars. So this car, this is the one place in this car has been really not satisfying for me, and I cannot wait to fix it today. Now, I'm going to walk you through the whole process. We're going to take the door cards off and throughout the entire car, and I'll show you how you can do this work yourself and how this can make a dramatic improvement in your car. All right, let's get started on the driver's side door. All right, so I'm only going to show one door because, I mean, obviously the other side is going to be almost identical. So I'll walk you through the process of what it's going to take to get your door card off. Now, the first thing you're going to do is when you lift your door handle, there's a little plastic cover, which mine just fell off. But I wanted to show this to you on purpose because I wanted to show kind of the easiest way to get in and where the fingers on this are. So always use a plastic trim tool because if you use metal, you will tear up the plastic. So you can see there's these top fingers in this orientation in the door. So I took a very narrow plastic trim tool. I was able to bend it and get this edge up a little bit and then pry, and then the cover comes right off. Super, super simple. And when you look back here, you're gonna see two T20 screws. There's also another one under the door handle right here. If you reach in, you can feel it. And then under this bottom edge, you reach underneath. There's one right here, and there's one right there that you can feel, okay? So what you're gonna wanna do is take those out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So take the cover off, take the T20s out, and then we're gonna work the door card itself off. If you've never done this before, it's an interesting experience because you're going to make some interesting popping noises out of your door card when we do it. But we'll cover that in a second. But take the screws out and let's get the door card off. All right, so now that all the screws are out, let's talk about getting the door card off. And there's a couple of things. If you've never done this before, and especially if your car is new or if your door card's never been off, it's going to be really, really tight. So every BMW door card has been the same to a certain degree over a lot of years. You know, you take the various different screws out. There are plastic rivets, these kind of expanding plastic rivets that run all along the perimeter. And though the new G cars, the new G87s, G80s, so on, have a new kind of rivet, which I'm going to show you. The rivets are great, and they actually work better than the previous ones. They're also really prone to breaking. So I'll have the part numbers listed in the video description for all of this, but make sure to check that out if you break a rivet, or you might want to have a few on hand beforehand. Now, what I always will do is I'll use a plastic trim tool. This is one of my bigger ones. I usually start really here down low. I know I'm almost off camera right now, but I'll start in nice and low on the frame itself. There we go. And then I'll slowly apply pressure to pop it away. Now, if you've never done this before, you're going to be surprised by the sound. That's the sound of those plastic rivets starting to give. There it is. Now, once you have enough space, you can actually fit your fingers in. I prefer to use my hands than a tool once I start to get some space between the door card and the door itself, because then I can work my hands in and kind of work my way down and work all of those rivets out. pull gently, and the popping sound is going to sound like you're breaking something. Now, the one other thing to keep in mind, as you loosen this door card, because we're going to loosen it all the way across the bottom, then we're going to lift up to get off the clips here and off the center pin and away from the door. Now, there's a whole series of cables. Every car is different, every BMW is different, but there's the Bowden cable here, which is your door pull. There's going to be all your wiring harness, wiring loom back here, back behind. So don't pull it away aggressively or really firmly, because sometimes those cable links are really short. And there's, depending on the BMW, there's some of them where the connections were really fragile. The doors with the fiber optic, or the cars with the fiber optics in the door have the connection right here, and man, they were super fragile, really, really easy to break. Okay, so I'm going to work my way and work my tool all the way around the outside, slowly pulling this away. And then once it's loose, I'm going to show you lifting it up and away from the door and the wiring harness back behind. And I've got two different ways of potentially installing the speaker, depending on how much room we have once we get the door card off. Okay, so loosen the door card and then I'll show you lifting it off. Okay, so as you can see, it's actually loose now. So it's loose all the way across the bottom of the bottom edge, and you can see where it kind of swings away. Now, a couple of things. One, you want to be very careful of your door pin as we pull this up and kind of out. Also be very, very careful of your tweeter housing assembly down here at this end as well, as we take this out here in a second when we replace it. But it's also almost impossible to show the right camera angle to show all of the connections behind here because the space is so narrow, right? But as we lift this up and away, you can see it starts to pop away from the door like that and lifts up and away from the clips. Now, this particular model, there's a number of the BMWs, so the X5s and some of the others, where this door card kind of lifts over and hangs on the door itself. This presses in on these center clips, which actually in some ways makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so you can see the Bowden cable here. It's this blue cable. I've pulled it out of the clips on this side. When you get down here to the door, it's a little bit difficult to show from this camera angle, but where the cable meets the clip, I'm gonna pull up and away to get that loose. Now, when we look at the rest of the door card, very conveniently here for this particular model. Now, there are a lot of models where you have 6 or 7 different cables that are all coming in and connecting in different places. In this particular case, there is a single wiring harness right here down at the bottom. It's a little horseshoe clip. So if you wanted to take this off and set it aside completely, you can. Or at this point, you can leave it and just leave it in your lap here and replace the speaker directly. Now, to make this easier to film for you, if I was doing this on my own, I'd probably just leave the door card here because I'm familiar with it, and I would work and then I put the door card back on. In this case, I'm going to take it off so I can improve my camera angles to show you guys. This is one of those little horseshoe style collars where you press down on the little tab and rock the collar in like that. And then the plug is off. Yeah, we carefully lift this away. Yeah, there's no other connections to your door card. So all good to go there. Thank you, BMW, for making that so simple. Most of the time, it is much harder than that. So way to go, BMW, on this. Okay, so here's our speaker, and here's our tweeter. So we're going to be replacing the tweeter and the mid here. Let me rearrange my camera angle so you can see it a little bit better, but I want to show you taking this out, and we're going to put in the new speaker, the filter, and the new tweeter. All right, so let's focus on the mid next. All right, so looking at the mid, these plugs I will normally pull off first because they're anchored against the speaker against the door. These blue plugs, very famously, can be unbelievably stiff. I mean, I literally don't know why, but it's like the plastic fuses to the plastic or something. But they can just honestly just be absolutely silly sometimes. So I will usually pull those loose while the speaker is still attached to the door. Now, you're going to have 3 T20s, 1, 2, and 3, and I'll pull those off here in a second. And we're going to compare, actually, the mid here against the Bimmertech mid once I have this off. I want to show you, man, what a difference. Now, the other thing we're going to want to do is also go ahead and take your tweeter housing off. This is very, very simple in this case. You just pull back towards the back of the door, and it pulls away from that ridge and off. And as you can see, it's also connected right here. So you can go ahead and unplug right here as well. Now, one thing I want to note here really quick is wire colors. So if you notice that the wiring bundle that comes up is this black and green and black and green. So this is the wiring run for the tweeter. It's going to matter here in a second. If you look here, you can see the red and black. This is the wiring run from the head unit, or from the amp really, but from the head unit. This is the one we're going to put the filter on here in just a second, but I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this unplugged, because there's this one plug right here. I'm going to pull the mid out with those 3 T20s, and then we're going to compare the speaker and put the new ones in. All right, so now that all that's off, let's go ahead and do a quick comparison here. So looking at the OEM mid, it feels like probably a paper cone. Obviously, these are still in great shape. I mean, my car's brand new. But look at the size of the magnet on the back of that. And magnets really make your speaker. That's a huge part of, and one of the most vital parts of your speaker. And this is the HK setup. So yeah, huge, huge difference with the Alpha Ones. I mean, it's just, it's night and day different. Okay, and I'm just stunned, really. I mean, you know how much I love the brand and I love BMW, but really the speakers are really just terrible. So, all right, what you're gonna wanna do is install the mid back in the same position here. We're using the screws. You can see the plug orientation, and it doesn't matter which plug that you plug into, it literally doesn't make a difference, okay? But what you are gonna want to do though is grab a filter. The filter is this little guy right here. You can see it's got a male end and a female end. The male end, excuse me, the female end will go into the plug from the amp, you know, from the wiring harness itself. Let's see if I can do this one-handed, guys. So that goes in right there, and then this will plug into the speaker. So this is because of the change in the speaker technology itself. You put this filter in place. Okay, this side is is for the tweeter that goes up above. And I'm going to show you pulling the tweeter out here in just a second. This can plug into the speaker, and the new tweeter will plug in here, okay? But let's show changing out the tweeter. All right, so obviously I've got the mid in now with the filter installed. I've got the plug for the tweeter harness plugged in right here. And always make sure with these plugs, they frequently will go kind of halfway in and they feel like they're in, but they're not actually connected. So make sure that you push them in all the way, and there's kind of a, sometimes they'll make even a little bit of a click sound as they go in, but make sure that those plugs are in all the way. Now, when you look at your tweeter housing, you can see when we pulled it off, on the back, you've got your wiring harness kind of all wrapped around. It's under a little clip there, so pull that loose, pull the wire loose, and then you can slowly, carefully work the foam out just like that. Now, you're going to want to use a pick tool. If you look, there's 1, 2, 3, kind of 4 little plastic clips holding your tweeter down. You're going to want to take a pick tool in and just work it in and very carefully back this back out. Be really gentle as you do it because you don't want to break the clips. So this will pop free, and then go ahead and take the new Bimmertech tweeter here. You can see very similar design, but man, vastly superior speaker. Go ahead and take that and just snap it right back into place. It'll fit right back in the same spot. And then you're going to want to put the foam back on, you know, feed the wiring back around through the same channels over the little clip there, and it's going to look pretty much the same. It's going to look a heck of a lot better and sound a heck of a lot better, that's for certain. Okay, but go ahead and take your tweeter out. I'll show you what that looks like, then we're going to put it back on. All right, so now that the tweeter is replaced, go ahead and replace the foam. I usually just try to put the cabling right back down the same track as before, the filter right there into the little groove, and the wire around the hook. It's going to plug back in right here because we've got that connection between the two right there to there. Speakers all plugged in. Now your filter, you're going to want to take and tuck this away. It has a little bit of adhesive on one side if you pull this cover off, so you can tuck it down and away, and it's going to stick, and that way it doesn't rattle or make any noise, because I hate rattles. Okay, now your tweeter really, and again, BMW has done this 100 different ways on your tweeter. Apparently here on the G87 and the matching new 2 Series, it really only clips on really on just this side. So when you put this back on, make sure that it fits up and into this tracing really well and slides down firmly, just like that. And it fits in really, really well. So mine is actually off ever so slightly right at the moment, but I'm going to fix that. But make sure that it fits in on that groove and slides down and into place. You wouldn't want any gap, which is what I've got right there right now. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then we're going to walk putting the door card back on. All right, y'all, so in my excitement, I forgot to point out something really, really important that is radically different. I have never seen a BMW with these. So normally, right here, you would have a plastic rivet that would be an expanding rivet that would go into a hole on the door. And that expanding rivet would expand out and hang on. The old ones were kind of plastic posts. The new ones are an expanding rivet. And that's what I was mentioning earlier about those expanding rivets really like to break. They're great. They're a cool design. And once they're in, they stay very, very well. But they also, when you pull them out, they tend to break. Well, BMW has completely changed what they're doing. Way to go, BMW. This is the first time I've seen this. I've never seen better out of BMW. Instead of a rivet, you actually have a metal post here in the door. So this is an expanding little bracket that goes onto the post in the door, which is why these were so stiff coming off. And then these, obviously, if you break them, or if you had one that broke, you replace these. This is a vastly superior design. I can't even express what a better design this is than even the new expanding rivets that you'll see in like the G80s, the new M3s, the new M4s. So it's obvious that BMW, when they put out the new G87, they upgraded the technology. This is fantastic. This is really a vastly better design. I really can't stress it. Okay, so with that said, we're going to reverse and put the door card back on. So we're just going to tip it back up into place as we walk it back up here. Make sure all your wiring harness is set. Make sure that your tweeter's back into its proper position. It doesn't have a gap here on the back edge. All of your cabling in and secure, and then the plugs for your new mid are solid. Okay, you're going to want to connect the bottom cabling first in this fantastic single cable. So way to go, BMW. And then rock that horse collar back up into place, and now it's secure. There was a little bit of a click when it went on. Now your Bowden cable, this guy, as you can see, it's going to tip back into place. This lead edge, you tip into the connection here where your door pull is, tip it in and snap it down. And then I always test the door pull. I'll reach around and pull on the door pull to make sure that it works before I hang the door card back up. Okay, so go ahead and put your Bowden cable back on, put that lead edge in, snap it down. Hopefully you heard that little pop. Okay, and put it back in its little clip here on this side so it doesn't get in the way. Now, when you hold this back up here, you're going to want to put it in kind of that reverse order. So put it back over the rear, this rear door pin for your door pull itself. There's a little bit of a groove there. There we go. All right, and then we just line it up with these top clips. Now, what I will usually do is I'll come up and gently bang it back into place with my hand, just like that. Now, it'll hold itself. So all these top clips will hold itself. Now with these new posts, way to go BMW, it's gonna be a little bit different. I'm gonna suggest really kind of gently smacking it back into place as you go, okay? Because what we don't wanna do is break those new clip types. But yeah, see, and that holds so much tighter already. Way to go, BMW. Forgive me, I'm really impressed. This is an entirely new change here in the car. I hope they do that on all the rest. Okay, so then just walk your way around for the rest of those clips. Just kind of smack on it with your hand. Just like that. Yeah, that is so much better. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put your 5 T20 screws back in. They're all the same. It doesn't matter where they go. Take your cover, rock it, and rock it back into place. Press it back into place, and you're good to go. Now, being that this is a G87, we're going to jump into the back seat because the side paneling in the back seat has got speakers as well. All right, y'all. So looking here at the back seat, you have a speaker, you have a mid and a tweeter here in your back panels, which means we're going to have to take this back panel off to be able to get to the speakers themselves. Now, the current M2 is no different than most BMWs over time. There are a few exceptions. Hey, X1, I'm looking at you. But the back seat needs to come up, so you just lift underneath and pop. And pop it on both sides. And then you can take the seat base and feed it out. And then I'm going to show you taking the taking this bolster off on this side so we can get to what we need to disconnect this side panel and take it off. All right, so I'll show here on the driver's side. The passenger side will be exactly the same. So there's a couple of T30 bolts we want to take out. The first one is right here behind the big bolt for your seat belt. It's a T30 right there. Once you take that out, lay your seat down and take the T30 out. That's right there. Those are helping to secure down this side bolster. Then we're going to take this side bolster off. Okay, so go ahead and take those two out, and then we're going to take the bolster off. All right, so the side bolster is off, and this is one of those things that's easier to show after the fact than kind of during. So obviously it was in place. Now, the other thing to keep in mind in all of this is this has an airbag in it. So you have to be very, very careful. Okay, so obviously I took out the two bolts here, top and bottom, and then I got my fingers underneath because there's an edge right here that I'll show you in just a second. I was able to get that edge free. Then I kind of worked my way up to the middle position. So here's this tab that locks in here down here at the bottom. So I popped that tab free, which started to work it free. There's these mid-body fingers right here, these mid-pad fingers right here that are on this side right here. Work those free. And then you get all the way up to the top, and this big, huge monster clip. This is just simply a pressure clip that fits back in right here. You can see I have it highlighted with my flashlight. It goes back into that post hole right there. And this is really firm to get out. Now, BMW's used similar connections like this in the past. At times, I've had the side bolster come off this white clip, which is just set in here with a set of pressure fingers. In my case, the whole thing came out, but basically what I ended up doing was sliding one hand on this side, one hand kind of got my fingers in on this side, and then just gently rocked it and worked it and worked it and worked it eventually to get it to come out. It was in very, very tight. So it took some doing to get out. But as you can see, that would be very hard to describe kind of in place and not be able to see these tabs. Now, the other thing is this does have an airbag in it, which I just mentioned, which is connected right here. The official BMW guides say you need to unplug your battery, you need to unplug all this wiring harness and all the rest, which is not a bad suggestion, but I'm just not going to unplug it at all. So I'm not taking this off, I'm not taking this away. I'm just going to very gently set this right here and leave it plugged in. Now, I'm going to say the same thing when I get to the seats, where you do not unplug your seats when we move them to get to the subs underneath the seats. Same thing here. Do not unplug this unless you pull the negative ground on your battery. If you do, you're probably going to end up with an airbag warning, and you're going to end up in a situation that is very hard to clear and very likely will end up at the dealership. Okay? So in this case, as long as you're gentle and you're careful and you pull this out and just lay this to the side, then you should be fine. Now, the other thing you also can do is you can potentially put it down here in the footwell to get it out of the way entirely. But because what we're going to need to do is lay the seat back down, because we need to get to the plastic trim that's back here in the corner, holding the corner of the side panel on. But let me lay the seat back down and then I'll show you that trim. Okay, y'all, so I've gone ahead and put the seat back up, but I've also removed this cover before I did so. Now, there's two of those typical BMW expanding plastic rivets, one on the one side, one on the other. There's a central little cover right here that you just slide up and out. So if I wanted to, I could take this completely off the seatbelt at this point. I really kind of don't see the point, though you could if you wanted to. That helps free up this upper corner here of this back panel. Now, this back panel is similar to a door card. It's got those straight connections across the top. It's got plastic rivets all around the outside, around the perimeter. So this is on very, very strongly. So what I found is you can feel where the rivets are. Now, you can tell mine's a little bit loose already because I wanted to show you. There's a primary rivet right here where the handle is. The next primary rivet is up here, up at the top, which is why that plastic plate has to come off. So what I found is if I got both hands right here, right where that rivet is, and pulled, you can hear the pop, and then now it's free. That starts to give me a little bit of play in the panel itself. Now you go up here to the top. The plastic rivet's up here in the corner. You don't want to pull in the middle because it starts to bow the entire plastic. So I got my hand up here in the corner, and you can feel where this rivet is, and I can literally feel the rivet now. And I got right here where the strut is, or the brace for the rivet, and I pulled, and then it pulled free. Once that's free, it starts to disconnect all along the top here on those straight connections. And as you can see, my panel is almost entirely loose. There's still one rivet down here in the bottom, forgive the shadows, that needs to come off. So I'm gonna pop that rivet and pop it across the top, and then this whole panel will come out. I'll show you what that looks like once it's out, and you'll understand where these rivets are just a little bit better. All right, so let me show you one more quick addition. So I went ahead and took the side door sill off, which is gonna make it easier to move the carpet once I get to the subs under the seat anyway. So you pull the side door sill by simply just getting your fingers underneath it and popping. As you can tell, it left pretty much all of the plastic pins behind. We'll take those out with a pair of pliers later, but took that off because it also hooks in right here at the bottom of this back panel, which makes it a little bit harder. Now, it could be possible to feed it out without taking the side door trim off, but I figured I might as well do it now anyway to make it easier with the carpet anyway. And it makes this much easier. Now, as you can tell, this is loose. You can start to see these plastic rivets that are holding it in place. 1, 2, 3, all up that side. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that if you made the same decision that I did, not to unplug your airbag, this still has the wiring harness for the airbag right down there at the bottom, right? But you can now see your speaker back here in the back. That's the primary thing. Forgive the shadows. The wire is right here. That's the primary thing keeping this panel from laying down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the mid right here, and then we can lay this panel down and swap out the speaker. With the speaker unplugged, you're able to lay the panel down. And I tell you, if you've seen my SoundSkins video, man, this would have been a perfect time to do SoundSkins up this wall too, because this is just bare metal. It's going to be a lot of noise coming through that, but that's a future problem. That's a future thing I'll do, not today. So you can see I've got my replacement Alpha One here already. Go ahead and pull 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and pull this out, replace it with the Alpha One, and then go ahead and slide this panel back up into place. I'll show you getting that re-secured. All right, so obviously I've laid the panel back up into place. Make sure that your seatbelt is over the top and actually kind of can help hold it into place as you guide it in. Now, it's not in down this edge or any of the back edges right now. Much like a door card, I lined it up across the top with those little straight clips and then just banged it into place with my hand to help hold it in place and make sure that it's straight. Now, you know where all the other posts are, this corner, here, across the middle. So then you can bang those back into place just with your hand and medium pressure. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do, if you notice that my door seal, forgive the shadows, it's actually tucked back a little bit. So when this goes back in, make sure that this door seal gasket is not pinned down by this at all. And you can kind of see the line of where the door gasket normally would go. So go ahead and smack all this back into place with your hand, get it all lined back up. Make sure that your airbag cable is still right where it should be and it's not pinned down or anything at all. But get this set back into place, and then we can put this cover back on, which I'll show you, and then we'll put the armrest back on, and then this side will be done. All right, so go ahead and slide this cover back up into place. You'll notice that there are a couple little fingers on this that fit into the trim back here. So as you slide this up, also make sure it hasn't twisted your seatbelt at all or anything else like that. But just get this, yeah, there we go. Just press back into place right there. And then go ahead and put both of those plastic expanding rivets back, one right here, and then slide that central cover back down into place, and then this will be set. When you put this armrest on, or excuse me, the side bolster, you're going to want to basically do it in reverse order. Set at the top, get that top center post in, work your way down, make sure that those side fingers are in, and then down here at the very bottom right here is the hole for this very bottom notch right here. Again, be very gentle with the airbag, be very gentle with the cabling. Make sure that your seatbelt's out of the way, and you can set this back up into place, and you should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to secure this plastic, get the side bolster into place, and then we're going to do the back deck speakers next. All right, y'all, so filming through the back glass to hopefully make the angle a little bit easier to see. So you've got this cover, it's got a series of clips all the way around and some big hooks on the back. So you're going to use a plastic trim tool to get under this front edge and gently pry up. Be very careful because this plastic will flex. You don't want to break it. You can lift it and pull it up and away. And now you can see the shaped tweeter and your mid here. So 1, 2, 3 screws holding this down, 1, 2 holding the mid down, or holding the tweeter down. I like these little hand drive tools. So I've put my T20 on a little hand drive here so I can get in and get these screws out. And you're just going to do the same thing that you did before. Your tweeter chains off the mid just like the others. Now the other thing you're going to want to do is this is where your other shaped. So you know your mids that had all the padding around them, And now you've got these smaller framed mids. That's where these go, okay? So go ahead and pull those. Don't forget, and this has the plugs, 2 plugs on it as well. The plug that comes up from the wiring harness, you're gonna put the filter on and put that into place, and then daisy chain the tweeter off of the mid, okay? So just simply take these out, and I'll spare you taking all the screws out here, because it's gonna take a little bit of this kind of strange angle. But go ahead and take all these 5 screws out, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put these back into place, put the new ones back in place. And then the cover, you just lock the hooks in the back and snap it back down into place and you're done. Then go ahead and go and repeat on the other side. So after that, I'm gonna show you how to do one mid here underneath probably the driver's seat. And then if you haven't repeated all the work on the other side, you'll want to go and do that. We'll also do the center channel. But before we get there, go ahead and get this done, get your other back panel one done, and then we're gonna move forward. All right, y'all, so much like the back, you've got this your front center channel cover here that you're gonna wanna get underneath with a plastic trim tool. Be very careful while you do this, and I'm actually gonna get a slightly different tool here that's gonna give me a little bit better grip underneath this. But it's very similar to basically what you did on the back shelf. So there's just posts all the way around that holds this down into place. You want to get underneath it with a plastic trim tool. Don't ever use metal because you're going to score up the plastic and your dash, and it's never going to go away. That would be terrible, right? But basically you just want to get down and underneath this. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in, and we're going to do the last things, which are the subs underneath the seats. Now, you've got 4 T50 bolts. They're big, huge monster bolts right here. This is one of the reasons why you don't want to unplug your battery. You want to be able to move your seat forward and back. So run your seat back as far as you can. Pull both of these bolts. Like I said, it's a T50 Torx bolt. Pull that out, run your seat forward as far as you can, because the 2 back ones back here, you're not going to be able to get unless you run the seat forward. So run the seat all the way forward and pull both of those. It is really tight on these seats, but you can make it with a wrench and a T50 socket. So once that's done, I usually will put the seat right about in the middle, and I'll run the seat back up as far as I can, and then we'll just tip the entire seat back, because right here is the cover for your subs. So you want to pull those 4 bolts, tip the seat back. Do not unplug your seat. I cannot stress that more. Do not unplug your seat. You will get an airbag warning. You'll have some issues that are not easy to straighten out unless you go to the dealership. So you'll be fine, and you don't need to unplug your battery as long as you do not unplug your seat here underneath. Do not do it. Just tip it back and leave it in place, okay? So then there are 4 T20 screws that hold down this cover, and then we will be at the sub, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, y'all, so once you have that cover off, that 1, 2, 3, 4 T20 screws, there are 4 T20s. They're usually silver. They're down in each corner. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the sub itself. So now this is the point where you decide if you're lucky or not. Because about 25% of the time, even on models of the same year, I will find that sometimes BMW glues their subs down. So not a great deal. If that is the case, there are some 10 millimeter nuts on both sides, 1 and 2 over here, and then this whole box will come out, and you will have to pry the sub out and break the glue that runs all the way around the outside. Now in this case, we've gotten really lucky, and they're not glued down. So really good news, makes it really easier to put in. Now there's one connection plug right here. It's a little bit hard to see. There's a little locking tab on one side that you have to press that way. So actually push inward, and then this plug will come out. So go ahead and unplug your sub. Just push the new Bimmertech sub into place. I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Then just put it all back together. And then at that point, you just put the screen back on, put your seat back down, and I'll show you all of it. But it really is that simple. And then if you haven't done the other side already, you just go and do the other side. All right, so the sub is screwed back down. Now, Bimmertech does supply 4 screws per subs if you need them. I've definitely seen some of the ones that are glued down don't have screws, so you can put screws in to hold it down. I also just reuse the OEM ones if I've got them, so that's no big deal. And so put your cover back on, and then you can take your seat and just rock it back up into place. And what I will usually do is I will put in the front bolts just down to like just barely snug, like you know, just screwed down just far enough to hit the bottom, but not tight in any way. That way they're low enough I can run the seat forward, but I can still have a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that everything is lined up perfectly with all of the alignment of the rails down through the bolts. What you do not want to do is strip one of these bolts when you put it in. That would be really, really bad, okay? So put in the front two loosely, then you can put the back two in. Once they're all done, you can torque them down. The torque values will be in the video description, so make sure to check that out. And then at that point, and if you've caught up on everything else, you've done the side panels, you've done your other door, you're all done. Good job. So one important tip while putting your back seat in. So you tip the back in and then you slide it down. But as you can see, I have my seat belts plugged in. So what I will usually do is I will reach underneath and I will tip the seatbelt buckle upwards into the opening, but you have to balance both sides, and it kind of wants to fight you, and makes it hard to actually try to get that pushback through while you're pushing the seat base down. I'll pull the seat belts over and lock them into the seatbelt buckle, and then they'll hold them in place on both sides. And then I can straighten it all out. I can push this all down, and there's these clips here in front, and just smack it down into place, and your back seats are in, okay? So make sure to get that done. Let me show you how to put the door sills on as well. All right, so don't forget, if you have those white plastic, plugs left behind, you take a pair of pliers and pull them out, and then just slide them back into place on this plastic trim. Now, there's a couple of locking pieces on this on either end. So on this end, you'll notice that you've got a kind of a finger piece here and a finger piece here, and that slides under this back panel that we pulled off. So you'll want to fit this end in first, then this corner pin, which is probably the one that takes a little bit of wiggling to get into place. And then work your way up, making sure that all of the white pins are in alignment with the holes. There's also a central pin here and one on this bottom edge to kind of lock it in from two sides. But then just smack it down into place. Go ahead and get that reset. And then if you haven't done the other side, make sure to do that as well. All right, y'all all done, so go ahead and clean up and put your tools away. And you can tell this really isn't a hard project. It's just something that's gonna take you some time, and there's no reason why you couldn't do this yourself. Now, I really like Bimmertech gear. I couldn't wait to get this in my car, and it was planned when I ordered my car that I was gonna be upgrading to the Alpha Ones. Now, I'm definitely gonna do the amp as well, but that's gonna be a future project, so make sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you to Bimmertech for making such a fantastic product. It is so much better than the stock speakers. I can't even begin to tell you. I really appreciate them. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to click like and subscribe. It makes a genuine difference to my channel, and I cannot wait because I have so much content to bring to you, not only on this M2, but a lot of other models as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next project.